is love on the Queer Family Podcast. Love is love.
All right, so when did baby making, when did the conversation about that come into the picture?
We'd always talked about it. Like we'd always had, I remember at one point, I don't know, maybe 2 years into being together, we were at dinner and I said to Steven, raising a kid with you would be really fun. Like it would be a really fun adventure. And so we'd always kind of talked about it, but we never really thought it through in any way.
Took action. We just
like,
talked
maybe
about
one
it.
day
we kept trying and it just wasn't, we weren't getting pregnant. No.
Welcome to the Queer Family Podcast. My name is Jamie and I'm your host, and you are tuning in right now to the Queer Family Podcast Pride Extravaganza. What is that, you ask? Well, all month long, the entire month of June, which is Pride Month, we are pushing out double the episodes of Queer Family goodness for your listening pleasure. That means that instead of just one episode a week on Mondays, you're going to get 2 episodes a week. Every Monday and every Thursday, a new episode drops, and the guests we have lined up for the extravaganza are amazing. At Changemakers, I could have named this month the month of Changemakers, because they're all doing the work to be visible on their platforms, to make a difference for the rest of us queer folks out there who are just trying to get by, right? They're making a difference, every single one of these guests. And today's guests, oh my God, I'm just going to tell you who it is because it's very exciting. Their names are Brett Shuford and Stephen Hana, aka Broadway Husbands, on all the social media platforms. And if you don't follow them, you're going to want to go follow them right away. And you're especially going to want to follow them after you hear their story and hear them speak. I absolutely love these two. They use their platforms to educate folks in the world out there about surrogacy. And as we know, there are some myths that need to be dispelled when it comes to surrogacy journeys. And they're also using their platform to just be visible as 2 gay dads. And it's what we all need. And it's what we all need to see. They're so fun. They do so much fun stuff. They dance a lot, which I love. And they talk in this episode about their journey to daddyhood, parenthood. And it was a surrogacy journey. And they actually did it piecemeal, little by little, which is a really cool idea for folks who really don't have all the funds to do it all at once. Because as we know, the surrogacy route is freaking expensive, unfortunately, because we're not to the place of true equality when it comes to fertility care in the LGBTQIA plus community. I'm standing on my high horse here, but you know what I mean? Like, we're not there yet. And so they did a piecemeal route, and it's a really fun story. And I can't wait to share it with you. And here's another thing I love about, like, every time I speak with folks who don't have a uterus, as you will, and who have to go down the surrogacy journey to build their families, every single one of them comes away with this, like, supreme appreciation of what a body with a uterus does and is capable of. And the way these two talk about their surrogate and what her body did just gave me all the feels. I just love it when folks come away with an appreciation for these bodies that create life. You know what I'm saying? We need a little bit more of that, I think. I want to roll the tape for you, but before I roll the tape, I have a couple of things I want to let you know about. Something big just happened. I and the podcast was included in a little bit of press recently, and it blew my mind. I have been included in Go Magazine's 100 Women We Love class of 2023 in this month's edition of their magazine. What? I am in 100 Women We Love. Listen, I'm in good company. I'm in amazing company. It's giving me all the feels. So if you want to read the article, you can go find it on my social media. Obviously, I shared it. And you can go to gomagazine.com too and find the article. It's amazing. And then I'm also in another magazine called Hotspots, which is a LGBTQ Florida magazine. Haha, take that, Ron, the stupid head. And it's like a 3-page article about me and the show. And I couldn't be more thrilled. And you're going to find that also on my social media and at hotspots.com on their website. So go check it out. Go read that stuff and then put some happy comments up. Please. And speaking of happy comments, go follow me on all the socials. I am the Queer Family Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And TikTok. I'm all over the place. I'm everywhere you didn't want me and more. But on YouTube is where you're going to get the video episodes. And if you want to watch the video episodes a day early, you should join my Patreon. I have various tiers in my Patreon community that start at just 2 little itty bitty bucks a month. And that way you're going to get your bonus content and you're going to get the video episodes, which are beautifully edited by my lovely editor, Jerson, dropped a full day early. So you can be in the know of these beautiful episodes even before everybody else does. Who doesn't want that? I ask. And if you're watching the video, you see I am once again, all prided up. I got my Queer Family Podcast mug, which you can get on my merchandise store at tpublic.com/the Queer Family Podcast. I've got my We Say Gay shirt that we also sell in the merchandise store. Take that, Rhonda Stupid Head. We say gay every day. I got my my gay hanky on, my LGBTQ rainbow hanky. I got my rainbow flag flying on the wall. I am and my headphones even have Queer Family Podcast stickers on them because I just put stickers on everything. Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Okay, so go do that. Go buy some merchandise at tpublic.com. And then also, I have one more thing for you. I've talked a lot about this book subscription service that I love. It's called Our Shelves, OURSHELVES. And they put together like inclusive and diverse boxes of books for children of all age groups. I give it for baby shower gifts now. That's my go-to gift. And I have a discount code for you all. Get it in your kids' schools. Like, go do this. Like, I have a discount code. Go do this. It's you're going to go to ourshelves.com and you're going to use discount code QUEERFAM, QUEERFAM, and get that discount code and go like buy all the inclusive, diverse books that you can get. Why the F not? Trying not to swear. It's hard though. It's hard. Anyway, okay. I want to roll the tape. I love you so much. And Brett and Stephen, I actually had the pleasure of meeting in person at the Family Equality Council gala that I attended a little while back. And let me tell you something. We cut a rug on the dance floor. I can't wait to dance with these two again. And I can't wait for you to hear their story. So I'm going to ask my lovely assistants who are also drinking from Queer Family Podcast mugs right now. I think it's whiskey, though. I don't think it's coffee like mine is. Helen and Beulah, would you please roll the tape? They're being so nice to me because they really are enjoying the Queer Family Podcast Pride Extravaganza episodes. It has nothing to do with me. Okay, fake assistants, Helen and Beulah. Roll that tape, sisters. I love you. I love you guys. All right, enjoy.
Queer Family Podcast. Love is love.
Hi, Brett and Stephen.
Hi.
Oh my God, it's so wonderful to have you. If y'all don't know Brett and Stephen, you need to go follow them right now. They are Broadway husbands on the social media, and they're Broadway stars plus gay dads. And I have been following you for a while. You're basically famous. I can't wait to hear your entire story, like behind the scenes. Here we go. And I'm so excited to have you for the Pride Extravaganza.
Yay!
So why don't we just get right into it? I'm going to put a timer up. You're going to give us your 30-second elevator pitch. Tell us who you are and why you're here talking to the Queer Fam Squad. I call them that. It's weird. It sounds funny, but it's true.
Love it.
Okay, here we go. On your marks, get set, go.
Hi, I'm Steven.
And I'm Brett.
And we are the
Broadway
Broadway
Husbands.
Husbands. We met in 2006 when we were both trying to better ourselves by becoming sober men. We fell in love, and I was a principal dancer at the New York City Ballet, and he was on Broadway. And that's why we became the Broadway Husbands, because we were on Broadway at the same time, and we were
several years.
Gay across the street and on Broadway together.
And then we lived in the East Village for a long time. We decided
we got married in
we wanted to
2011.
and we went through the process of having a baby
Through surrogacy.
13 months ago, Maverick James Hana Shuford was born, and we got invited to the Queer Family Podcast.
And it has been the most amazing 13 months and exhausting / just amazing 13 months ever.
That was amazing. I mean, you went a little bit over, but that doesn't matter because it was beautifully done. And I loved it. I loved every second, especially the very beginning. It was almost choreographed. It was gorgeous. Can you talk a little bit how you fell in love and what that story is?
the first time I remember actually really talking to Brett is he came up to me on the Times Square subway platform. This is Steven talking, obviously. And we had seen each other at these meetings that we were going to. I was newly sober and he had been sober for a little bit. But he came up to me, I think just to be a nice person.
No agenda.
No agenda. I think there was no, really, I think it was just all in, trying to be a friendly person. He gave me his card. And at this point, there was no social media. So I was like, looking at his website.
Was that, by the way, that's the kind of actor I was. I had business cards.
He had business cards. And he gave me his card. And I would go and hang out with my friends and be like, look at this guy that gave me his card. And I would look at his website all the time. So that's how it started. But at the time, I was just trying to get my life together. So I was just kind of trying to pull it together.
In our mid-20s,
yeah, I was
26. And, and Steven was right out of rehab. And, it was all very new. And I knew it was dicey, but I was so attracted to him. And I was trying very hard to not let that impede. So we became friends. We really were seeing other people at the time. Yeah. And they were both terrible relationships, And we would just, as friends, hang out and complain about the people we were seeing at the time. And then
I was out of my relationship, and then
I finally got out of mine, and I called him. I was like, "We broke up. What are you doing tonight?"
And then that was April 18th of 2007. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, April 18th of 2007. And we got married on April 18th of 2011.
4 years to the day.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's it in a nutshell, really.
Okay. I love it.
I don't think that I knew that I would find somebody that I actually wanted to share my life with in the way that you would as a spouse or a partner. I just didn't see that in my future it was just not in my realm of thinking. And until I met Brett. Sorry, I don't know why I'm fidgeting so much. At the time that we fell in love, marriage wasn't legal. But when we actually fell in love, I was we both knew that we wanted to be married and be together. And, that's the kind of love that we had instantly for each other. It's just we kind of knew,
You hauled it sort of in lesbian fashion.
Yeah, even though it took us 4 years to get married, but yeah, for
it's
sure.
It's not really a U-Haul. It's not even, but I like to say that anyway, because I like us all to have something in common. All right, so when did the conversation about that come into the picture?
We'd always talked about it. We'd always had, I remember at one point, I don't know, maybe 2 years into being together, we were at dinner and I said to Steven, raising a kid with you would be really fun. It would be a really fun adventure. And so we'd always kind of talked about it, but we never really thought it through in any way.
Took action. We just
talked maybe about one day
we kept trying and it just wasn't, we weren't getting pregnant. No. We always talked about it. We always had it in our vision of what we wanted in our future, but we never were really taking the steps necessary for it to happen.
Yeah.
And then at one point, in 2014 or 2015, we went to a baby planning meeting at the Gay and Lesbian Center.
Mm-hmm.
There, they gave us, they kind of laid out the options.
Yeah, they talked about adoption, foster to adopt. They talked about open adoption. They talked about surrogacy and all the different ways you can go through that. And then we kind of were talking through our options and just taking in information. And then there was a movie that we watched. And
for whenever we talked about having a baby, we always talked about having a baby through adoption. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to think about. We had friends who were going through the surrogacy process. And I remember going to dinner with them and hearing about what they were doing and how it was going. And it was a very up and down journey. And I can remember leaving the dinner and saying to Brett, that doesn't sound like it's for us, or for me. I was well, I just want to adopt, And then somehow in 2016 or 2017, we saw this movie, and I can never remember the name of it. It's with Molly Shannon. It's a drama. It's a Molly Shannon drama. She's dying of cancer, and her son, let's look it up, she has a gay son, and she's on her deathbed, and she says to him, just promise me that you'll come and visit
Other people.
Other people. It's a really sad movie.
I have never heard of this movie. I've never heard
She's
of it.
very good in it. She's very good in it. But it is sad. And at the end of the movie, Stephen was bawling.
She says, she's on her deathbed, and she says, just promise me that you'll come see your sister when I'm gone. And she says, when you come to see her, you'll always see me in her face.
He gets choked up every time.
For some reason, that idea and that sentiment, I don't know. It sparked something in me. It gave me purpose and a mission. And I was like, if we're going to have a baby, we should have a baby through surrogacy. And so from that moment on, we kind of just started doing the thing to have a baby through surrogacy and actually taking the steps to do it.
Because of because she kind of had this without that genetic tie. That is that the reasoning why?
Yeah, I think there's some sort of longing for family. I think I moved away from home when I was really, really young, and I think that I'm still kind of recovering from that trauma. I mean, it wasn't necessarily trauma, but I think that there's just
there's
this
some abandonment
longing of family that just spoke to me, and just to have that sense of belonging and family. And I was like, we should just try to do this. And I think the thing that always pushed us away from it was the financial part of it. And I think having a baby for two men is always expensive, but for some reason we were always under the guise that it would be impossible.
And let me just say, when we decided to try surrogacy, we did it under the guise that let's just see how far we can go. And if we get to a point where it's this isn't going to work out, we'll just try adoption. And we were cool with that. And we were we freelance as artists. We were not independently wealthy. Neither of us have had series regulars for multiple seasons. We don't have that kind of money. So it was let's just see if we can even.
Yeah. And it's a lot of money. I mean, it's at least you're talking $100,000 just to start for you guys. And it's not fair. It sucks.
It sucks, but I think the big thing for us was you don't have to do it all at once. It's we were able to do it in pieces, and that was huge. And our doctor helped us you just make the embryos first, and that was totally manageable financially for us. So we did that, and then we can figure out the next step later. And that's why it took 4 years, but it was totally worth it.
Well, not the only reason why it took 4 years. There was also a pandemic in the middle of it. We also had.
I'm not saying it's the only reason, Stephen.
Okay.
No, pandemic hit. But this, I always ask this question, how did the conversation start? Because with our families, so many decisions have to be made before we even get to the step where we're actually starting the process, right? We have so much to talk through. Who's going to be the biologically connected person? Because in most 98% of our relationships, one of us isn't going to have a biological connection to the child, right? So that's one hoop to go through. And then what's going to be our route? Because we have so many choices. Actually, I feel like you're the first couple I've talked to who've gone through the surrogacy route who did this kind of piecemeal. So let's get into that. So what'd you do first? And how did you decide who was going to be genetically tied? Or did you say we're going to just see what happens naturally? How'd it go?
Well, so the first step is you get your sperm tested.
That was the only thing covered by insurance. Getting our sperm tested. Yeah. So we did that
interesting.
First.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, we had a team day at our doctor's, the fertility clinic or fertility doctor. And, that's where, they take sperm off of us again and they do our blood work. We talk to a genetic counselor. We do all of those things to make the embryos. We made the embryos. We picked an egg donor. We forgot that part.
Yeah, I was going to say, how'd you make embryos if you didn't have any eggs?
Yeah. So, I was going to say, one of the reasons I felt personally I wanted to go to surrogacy is because I have a brother who's special needs, who has it's a genetic disorder that's passed through the family, and I've seen other people in my family pass down that disorder, and I just sort of having a brother with special needs is hard, and because you take on a lot of responsibility for that person in a lot of levels, and if we could eliminate as much of that as possible, or the chances of that happening with our child, I really wanted to just see, you can't avoid it. And if, no matter who our child was, we would love them unconditionally and, it'd be fine. But surrogacy eliminates a lot of risk because of the amount of genetic testing that can happen and the matching that can happen with the embryos and the eggs and all that stuff. So that for me was like an important reason for us to try it. And so when we went to our clinic, they had their own donor bank for eggs. So they find donors themselves, and they sent us, I think, 3 profiles to start. And as soon as we went into the team day, they said, here's 3 profiles. And you kind of look at them like a dating profile. There's everything you need to know. They have all their DNA and genetic everything too.
The first profile we looked at, she had a video, and it was really beautiful. And she talked about how, her husband, I guess he didn't have great parents, and he was kind of taken in by 2 gay guys. They kind of helped him through high school. They never had kids of their own, and they told her that they'd always wanted to have a kid. But by the time they really thought about it, it was a little too late. So she just always wanted to help a gay family. Aww. And she was pretty young at the time. She was 26, 25, and she'd already had 2 children of her own. Oh, and it has to obviously be at that point.
Well, we watched the video and we both cried. We were like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
She was a dancer. I'm a dancer. She was a twin. Brett's a twin. We were like sold.
Oh my God.
So that was that.
We felt like it was all serendipitous.
Yeah.
Easy choice. Like sometimes these choices, and I talk about the donor search, it's the search for Superman or Superwoman, because you get crazy with these searches. But lucky you found her.
The first one too, right? And I think it could be very easy to overthink it. She had Italian blood, and neither of us are Italian. And but I was like, who cares?
That was the one we're like, well, but oh well.
At least you didn't almost like me, almost X somebody out because they had acne as a teenager. Who doesn't have acne as a teenager?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we do. So good, easy decision. And then what happens?
We did the egg retrieval. I believe she had a really high number of eggs. I want to say she had 39 eggs or something. It was a very high number, because going into it, they were like, a high number is 20, and it exceeded that number by far.
It was 38 eggs.
Yeah.
There were 38 eggs that they retrieved. 20 of them were viable.
11.
They split them in half.
That's right. Of me and him.
So we did 10 Steven, 10 me. And then
so you each were able to.
Yeah.
And then of those, we ended up with 5 embryos.
Yeah. At some point, there was at the number 11. And the number 11 dwindled down to 5. So we have 5 embryos.
Because they tested them, and everything. And those were the best options. And to this day, we don't know whose are whose. We never asked.
Yeah.
But this is what I love about the surrogacy route with 2 folks who have sperm, right? You get to just not know exactly. With us, we kind of know exactly whose egg it is. We kind of have to. But with y'all, you get to kind of just and you're not the only gay male couple I've talked to who don't know who is the genetically tied person to the child or to the children. I mean, I think it might become obvious as they grow, but
there's got to be some mystery to this, a little bit of fun and not making everything so scientific. And then second, I think that we both come from families that are of a generation that don't really understand this process. And I think that they would, not maybe consciously, but they would treat our child differently depending on whose they were. And I don't want there to be any clear differentiation between who he belongs to because he's ours. Ours.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
And I love that. So 5.
Yeah. 5 embryos. And so the 5 embryos, I think, were made in 2018. Is that correct? Yeah. March of 2018. That's when we knew we had them. Got our first surrogate in 2019. And we were moving along with her. We got up to the point. Go ahead.
We didn't go through an agency.
Yes.
Because we don't want to spend the money on an agency. So I found her in a Facebook group.
Oh, really? What kind of Facebook? Was it a surrogate Facebook group?
Yeah, there's like an intended parents and gestational carriers Facebook group. And there's a bunch of them, and it's
Mhm.
some shady McShaderston people in there too. So just be
Right.
careful if you can
Yeah.
imagine. But
But
she
she
seemed
was legit.
legit.
And
So
she had done it twice before and had children of her own. So we moved forward with her. We had a team day. She was cleared. She was going through. But we had to kind of take a pause because of some financial things, and we were moving from Charleston back to New York. So it was kind of like just some timing issues. We had to take a little pause. And
Wait, when you say you moved forward with her, did you like use a lawyer and draft up papers and things just to make sure? Like what did you do to just to make sure that everybody was safe and no, you guys couldn't get hurt?
yeah, the first step was getting the doctor to approve. The doctor needed to look at everything. The social worker needed to look at her. So she had to have a criminal psychological background check. She had to have a physical. They had to look at her uterus. They had to do all of that. So that's what the team day was about. When they came, we flew her and her husband from California to Connecticut, and we did a whole day with them.
Yeah.
And then once the doctor's like, this is a good candidate, then it was like, okay, we got to get lawyers. We got to get a lawyer for her. We got to get a lawyer for us. We got to make sure that everything's drafted up and approved. And so we had done all of that.
So this was in March of 2019. And then we had to take a pause, and we were ready to move forward in like October, November. And that was kind of like we said by the end of the year. And she had agreed to that. But by the time we then handed her the contract, she decided she did not want to do it. So that happened on Thanksgiving of 2019. It was kind of a devastating, obviously, week. And
we were so bummed.
So bummed. So
but also
sad.
like kind of relieved, like, great, if she doesn't want to do it, then please, God, don't do it.
Yeah. And what did she give you any reasons why?
She just didn't want to do it anymore.
She just decided not to. And so then we were at a birthday party 2 weeks later. A mutual friend was there who we had hung out with her and her family like a year prior to that. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was there, and she was like, I heard your surrogate, you lost your surrogate. I would totally carry your baby for you. And we were like, it was a birthday party at a bar, and she had had a drink, and we were like, you may be drunk. Like, are you sure? Like, if you're serious, we're going to call you tomorrow. Like, we're not messing around. So we did. We moved forward the next day. We contacted her. She sent all of her information to our doctor. And
he was like, she's a great candidate.
She's perfect.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's who carried our baby.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow. And it was a friend.
Queer Family Podcast.
Hey, Pam, want a game with me?
No, Ryan. It's time to explain what the 10 News is.
It's a kids' news podcast for curious 8 to 12-year-olds that even grown-ups can learn from. What else is there to explain?
That we cover everything from the Supreme Court and the war in Ukraine to Pokemon and Minecraft. And we'll always tell you 10 things you need to know. We drop on Tuesdays and Wednesdays wherever you get your podcasts.
Is it game time now, Pam?
It's game time, Rye.
Queer Family Podcast.
I mean, obviously, you still had to have lawyers. You still had to have paperwork signed and all this stuff. Did you? I'm imagining you were going to pay the first surrogate something for being the surrogate. Did you do the same for your friend?
The answer is yes. We paid her. Yes, there was a contract. Yes, there was all of the things that you would have with a stranger, with a friend, obviously. And
I think that people don't even realize that we had to get an escrow account.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then her lawyer would take care of, her monthly payments and any medical expenses. Her insurance doesn't cover any of it because it's illegal. Actually, that's something I learned. It's illegal for her to let her insurance pay for anything. And sometimes she would go, she was going to her own OBGYN and they would run her insurance. And she's like, I'm not about to get arrested for you mishapping your paperwork, right? We'd have to make sure. So that's why a lot of people go to agencies, because agencies kind of keep an eye on those things. But we were doing it on our own. So we were constantly having to make sure that things were,
going the way they were
well.
supposed to.
Yeah. And there's no guidebook. Like even, back when I started in 2012 creating our family, there was no you couldn't really even Google, how do I do this? Now there's a little bit more, but like for surrogacy and things like that, I feel like we're really behind with like, there's no guidebook. There's no way of doing this.
It's just so unfortunate too in America because every state is different.
Yeah.
So no matter where you live, where your surrogate lives, you have different laws that you have to abide by, and so you need lawyers in those states, and like there's just it makes it really complicated. And then never mind the idea that like building your family in this way is not, insurance doesn't cover it, and it really, there should be some portion of it at least, because it is an infertility issue. That's what it is. But it's,
also talking about the insurance thing is before she was in her second trimester, every time she went to the doctor for blood work or anything, that was all out of pocket. But up until the second trimester, the insurance that we purchased for her didn't cover anything. So anytime she would go for blood work or anything,
oh my gosh,
out of pocket. I was like, oh my God, can they please just...
It's so hard, and it is so expensive. And like you said, like it's just inherently biased against our families. Like it's not fair. It's not equal.
It's,
a straight family goes through infertility and shit is paid for, and there's a road for them. Not for us. We have to pave our own roads. We have to find the money ourselves, and we have to go through loopholes to make our families. It's crazy.
We should also mention too, our first transfer was February 8th of 21, and we had a miscarriage. And so that was, that sucked. You know what I mean? That was just so devastating. And
I just want to say she's a woman, a very strong, amazing, generous woman who lives in Orlando, Florida. And if that had happened now, she would not have been able to get the procedures she needed to help pass that miscarriage. Yeah. Right. And it's so sad to think that someone like that, who's so willing to do that for someone else, could potentially be put at risk or go through. It was so traumatic for her because she was carrying this dead embryo,
Oh my God.
And she, it took 2 months, I think, for her to get the DNC and all that stuff. And that was really hard for us. We were sad and depressed. She was going through it. And, kudos to women. And
I mean, we always have known, that women are amazing. Human body.
Yeah. I mean, I learned more about the female reproductive system than I ever thought I'd know.
And it's like, we've always known that women are truly amazing. But when you have a baby and you see what is happening and what they do, and women's bodies, they're so capable and so amazing, and the respect and the things that we learned, it was
so can we stop making laws that bar women from using their bodies the way that they choose?
I know.
Dang, it's strange.
Unbelievable.
Strangest thing.
It's such crap. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
So she went through, the miscarriage happened. She went through hell, and she still came back to do it again for you.
Yeah, and she recovered beautifully. And
she even said she was more sad that she's like, I just wanted to give this to you.
Yeah.
She felt, I was like, no, it's not your fault.
It was really hard. But she recovered very quickly from it. And, the doctor, examined her, and she was ready to go pretty quickly afterwards. So our second transfer was on July 15th of 21.
And then these dates.
And it's amazing.
Dates like no one.
And well, it's just because they are big days, right? Because once they're in the calendar, you're just like, that's all you can think about.
This was also during COVID.
Oh, yeah.
So everything was on Zoom.
Everything was Zoom.
We watched both embryo transfers on Zoom.
Oh, my God.
And the second embryo transfer, we were at the airport
in LA
waiting to board.
Yeah. We were waiting. Luckily, our flight was delayed because I was like, "Are we gonna even make this?" And because then they pulled embryo 2 out, and they're like, "Oh wait, we don't like the way it looks after we've unthawed it." And I'm like, "What does that mean?"
They're boarding our boat.
We can't miss this. And they decided not to use embryo 2. They used embryo 3, and they did the transfer. She became pregnant. And embryo 3 became Maverick James Hana Shuford.
Oh my God, I love it. And then pregnancy was good and everything went well, and
Yeah, it was passing the pregnancy just because of COVID. She's in Orlando. We were in Houston because we had at this point relocated pandemic life. And then, our doctor's in Connecticut. So she would have to go in to her, scans because her OB can't take over until there's a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So the first 6 weeks or whatever, she's get a ultrasound.
But not her doctor.
But
right.
through a satellite version of our clinic.
Right.
And so there was this doctor who could scan her, but couldn't tell her
Give her any
anything,
information.
because they'd have to send the test back to our doctor in Connecticut, who would then tell her everything. So that was a whole
that was
pain
hard,
in the ass.
because you'd hear the heartbeat and she'd be like, "That's a heartbeat, right?" And the doctor would just be like,
oh my God.
"You know what I mean?" Like,
and then
what was the number? it's just
you spend the day why haven't they
waiting
called
for
yet?
the email
What are they
from
gonna
the
call?
nurse from Connecticut. And
Yeah, so 6 weeks she was pregnant, and then that transferred to her OB. So then her OB took over for herself, and
who
yeah.
was amazing. Her OB
Oh my
was
gosh.
amazing, who happened to
Oh.
also be a gay man. And I didn't
Oh.
realize that until
until the birth.
I guess, because I had met him once before that, but then I was like, wait, I think he's a gay man. And I was like, yeah.
And
And
he actually said to her, I think during the birth, right? Like, what you're doing for these men is unbelievable.
And then you started crying. This is a theme.
He's like, you're
Yeah.
giving them the most amazing gift. And I was like,
she did. The birth is,
it is
the most magical, amazing thing.
It's
Otherworldly, like,
being in the room was amazing.
we've talked to guys who have, not gay men, but straight men, who have said that they weren't in the room when their kids were born. And we were like, what? How could
What?
you miss it? It was like the most unbelievable, beautiful, like magical experience ever.
Aw.
Yeah.
And you were there, and so what talk us through what happens with a surrogate birth, and you two are the dads and you're in the room. You get your own room in the hospital. Talk with the listeners through kind of what happens.
Everything has to be legally signed, so that literally, if you're going to go through this, make sure you print everything out and you bring it with you to the hospital, no matter where you live. She was giving birth because her OB was doing the delivery. It's her doctor at that point who's taking care of her. She gave birth in Orlando. She was really her due date was coming up,
April 2nd.
and she was and she lost her mucus plug. That was a fun thing to learn about.
Yeah.
The mucus plug. And she sent a photo of it. I'll never forget it. And she was like, I just lost my mucus plug. You should probably get down here. So we were flew to Orlando.
So we were there 2 weeks before he was supposed to be born. And we went to her doctor's visit that week. And he looked at her and he said to us, would you guys want to have a baby on Saturday? And so he induced her a week early because she was ready.
Mm-hmm.
So when we checked into the hospital Friday night at 10:30, we had to have our paperwork because the head nurse, it's just not normal that they see two men with a woman and her husband. And so you need to have all that stuff so they understand who's playing what role in this situation.
And also because because maybe one person in the system is fully aware of what's going on, when you get there are security guards, front desk people, nurses. I mean, there's so many people, and that staff is always rotating.
And they're changing shifts all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a hard kind of pill to swallow at first because some people just didn't understand what was going on. And then also because of COVID, it was right before things kind of really eased up. Even though it was Florida, they had told us initially that only one of us were going to be able to be in the room. So we were kind of under the guise that we were going to go up and one of us was going to have to wait in the waiting room. But it turned out once we got up there,
once they saw the paperwork, the head nurse said, it's fine. These two men can be in the room with her and her husband. But these rooms aren't built for more than two people. I mean, so at one point, she still hadn't really gone into any sort of labor. She's,
They didn't break her water until 7:30 a.m. Saturday morning. Because up until that point, they were just giving her Pitocin. And in her two previous pregnancies, they were just She was like, listen, because her water had to be broken for both of her previous pregnancies. And she was like, the Pitocin doesn't work. We're going to be here all night. And she was right. They just have to do the protocol. So they didn't break her water until I think it was 7:30 in the morning. And we were there camped out. At one point before they broke her water, we went downstairs and kind of got some food, and we were delirious. We actually have it on video. It was funny because once they gave her the epidural, things really started moving forward.
She was feeling great.
We were having these really in-depth conversations. The lights were really dim. The doctor kept coming in and checking her, and she wasn't ready. Then at 12:30, which wasn't that far, from 7:30, it was 5 hours. All of a sudden they came in and oh, she's ready.
You're
fully dilated. We were like, whoa, that was quick. And then bam, 20 minutes later, 3 pushes later, Maverick was born.
Wow. Amazing. She was meant to do it. She was meant to do this.
The nurses were amazing. One of the nurses said, give me your phone. And she just filmed and took photos of the whole thing for us. So we didn't have to think about it because we were just in outer space.
Yeah.
So we have all this beautiful footage of us meeting Maverick and holding him for the first time and doing skin to skin. And
it's really just so wonderful to know that, especially in this day and time, especially in Florida, that y'all still had a really great experience. So it's the little mercies, and we got to take those wins, right?
That's right.
And like you said, you brought all of your paperwork, and it sucks that you have to do that, but it's better to be safe than sorry. I think that's really great. And I've talked to folks who've had really rough times in the hospital, and it's been terrible.
Well, all it takes is one person in a position of power to make it hell.
Yeah.
And that's why having it all legally there is super important.
We had agreed that she would pump. She pumped the colostrum, and we fed it to him in the room with her. We fed it to him. We spent 2 days in the hospital with him.
I had this amazing memory of Stephen feeding him the colostrum, and Crystal's there looking at us.
It was beautiful.
It was very sweet.
We spent 2 days in the hospital.
Yeah, we had our own room on a different floor from hers.
Mm-hmm.
She had a much nicer room, which she should have.
Yeah.
And it was what was really cool. This is a great suggestion that someone gave me, and I suggested to him I guess it's probably not a typical, because it was a hospital for women and babies. It's called the Winnie Palmer Hospital. But they do this in-room gourmet dinner that you can pay for, and they bring it up to the room, and it's 4 or 5 course, delicious. So we paid for that. It was totally worth it. And they let Crystal and Jacob come down, and we all had dinner in our room with Maverick
and that was the first time she got to hold him.
And she got to hold him, and we have this photos of us just all celebrating having been there together for the weekend, and it was just very, very cool.
I love hearing just a really happy, feel-good story when it comes to our family making, because it doesn't always go this way, right? And it's just beautiful to hear. Oh my God. And now you have Maverick, and Maverick is how old now?
13 months. And 13 months is crazy. Yeah. He's amazing. And yeah, we are in it. We are really in it now. Yeah, it's a whole new ball game now. He's not quite walking, but just about. He takes a couple steps here and there unassisted, but he's all over the place. And he is so funny. He has the funniest personality ever. And he's so cute. And I just don't think we knew how in love with this little guy we could be. And it exceeds all expectations, and the want of having a family, it's beyond anything I could have ever imagined. It's awesome. It's the best.
I love it.
It makes everything else just feel like whatever.
He'll go on about this for hours.
I could just
I love that. We talk about second parent adoption a lot. I had to do second parent adoption. My wife had to do second parent adoption because we each gave birth to one. And it's unfortunately a necessity for our families. How does it work? Do y'all have to get second parent adoption? And because you don't even know whose DNA it is, right? So how would they even decide?
In the hospital, she's automatically put on as the birth parent, right? Mm-hmm. But we had everything legally arranged before. They can't issue Social Security or any of that until after. So like on his bracelet, it said Crystal's name,
Mm-hmm.
but they immediately gave us bracelets for us. And then we could replace it with, replace his as soon as we left the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It's called like a parent.
We
It's not
talked about it
adoption,
forever. It's
because basically they just end up having to sort of issue later the actual birth certificate. So you get this version that has her as the parent for when you get released from the hospital. It's just, I think it's more about security because people steal babies from hospitals, which that was something I didn't know about.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy. They had to put 2 ankle bracelets on him so that no one would steal him.
Or just like the way they would check the rooms all the time. How many babies in here? 1? Okay, good.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa.
But it basically then, as soon as we left, because the paperwork that was filed through the hospital, we received his new parent order,
something like that.
And in the mail, we received his birth certificate.
The birth certificate does not necessarily delineate parentage, they say. And so they're always saying that we have to make sure, but you have this other order of parenthood or something that you got.
It basically legally tells the hospital, yes,
these are the parents.
The bracelet says this, but that's not true. The baby actually belongs to these 2
birth
people.
order or
pre-birth
order. There it is.
Pre-birth order.
Got it. But then going forward.
Yeah, I think your question is, did we have to, one of us have to adopt? No, because we got the pre-birth order.
Okay. So you're definitely 100% both the legal parents. Oh, that's great. That's okay. Pre-birth order, everyone. Pre-birth order. Get that pre-birth order.
The pre-birth order is the legal binding agreement that she signs as well.
Mm-hmm.
Crystal signs as well, saying, "I am not the mother. These 2 people are the parents." And
I wonder if it's similar to like how a regular adoption is done. Sort of.
Maybe.
I don't know. We're doing well with this one though.
Yeah.
We know all the answers, but that's okay. I never say I'm an expert. We're just telling our stories, and that's what it is. And we literally make it up and figure it out as we go. And that's why shows like this need to exist. And that's why books need to be written. And because we need to know how to do these things. Right.
That's right.
So when did the whole social media thing come in? Because you have a huge following and you're famous. So when did that start?
I'm never famous, but
it started in 2018.
I was always a big social media nerd. I'd always been making YouTube videos on my own YouTube channel and doing stuff. And then one of the most popular things was a series I'd started on my channel called Broadway Husbands, where Steven and I would literally just make a video about what it was like being unemployed in New York City. And
that was the first video we made. Top 5 things to do when you're unemployed in New York City.
I know that well.
And
collect unemployment.
And
get a cold brew.
Yeah. I was like, ooh, I wonder if anybody has this Instagram handle, because Instagram was still fairly ish new at the time. And no one had Broadway Husbands. And I was like, oh, I wonder if we start an account called Broadway Husbands and we just document our process towards becoming dads and all of this stuff, like what would happen? And so we just started making content and sharing our lives. And honestly, it was super fun for us because we'd never been in a show together. We'd never gotten to do anything creative professionally together. So this became a thing for us to kind of create together and come up with ways to collaborate as artists together. And that it was really fun. And then once Maverick was born, it was like the account just like blew up,
because you put a baby up there and that's it. Forget about
love
it.
A baby.
Cute baby. Yeah, come on.
Or and dogs and your dogs.
Maybe that's what my account is missing. I need to add my dog to it. I have my kids up there and they're pretty cute, but I don't know. I mean, that's amazing though. And you're doing everybody a service because you documented it. And there's a reason why people are watching, because we don't know enough about this stuff. I'm grateful to you for being so visible so that folks can see what it is, how we are as families, and also how we do it. And you're helping others, I'm sure, figure out how they're going to go down their path. And to see that it's possible, right? That's really important.
It's true, because I mean, early when we were talking at the beginning, like I never really imagined myself ever getting married because I never knew other gay men really at the time that were married, right? So that's why it was really important for us to kind of do this and why, when sometimes we don't really want to post, but like it's the driving force because it is a service. And, we're just speaking to our younger selves and trying to help them.
Because visibility really, really matters so much.
Amen.
Yeah, amen to that. I have one last question for you, and I'm asking everybody who's taking part in the Pride Extravaganza. The question is, and it's kind of a loaded one, so you might want to take a second, but it's not that loaded at all, actually. But I'm asking a big one. What does pride mean to you? I know, it's loaded. It's a lot.
It's changed as a parent, right?
Yeah.
Pride for me is about community. I feel like I want to know that the people who are in my life and my child's life have our backs 100% and unapologetically and no excuses. It's just is. We just love you unconditionally, no matter what. And we're going to fight for you. And if you're not there, bye-bye. Like if you're not gonna be there for us, then
it's okay.
We're not there. It's okay. You don't have to.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna probably stick around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there were things I think I was willing to tolerate to a certain point before having a child that I just won't tolerate anymore.
Yeah. And I think that's what, pride means for us is just being fully ourselves and confident and in our skin and trying to lead the path and clear the path even more for our now son and feeling confident and able to do that and feeling fortunate enough that we live in a place that we can do that because we know that we have a lot of privilege and we acknowledge that. And, we just want to be the best selves for us and for now our baby.
I love that. And because once you have those little suckers, like you have to model pride in your family, no matter what. I say that all the time. You can't just let things fly under the rug anymore. No, because they're watching. They're watching and they're taking it in, right? So unapologetically proud. I love that. Yes, 100%. Oh, good answer, y'all. I love you too. I'm so glad you came to talk to the Queer Family Podcast, and you
Thank you
are
for
a part.
having us.
Oh man, I'm honored, and you're a part of the community now, and we're all invested. So you have to keep us updated and let us know what's going on with Maverick. I mean, we can all go follow. Where can everybody follow you? I think we know, but just say it.
Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Come check out Broadway Husbands.
Yes, check them out, follow them, and give and throw up all the love, especially this month because it's Pride. Every day's Pride. Come on, let's be real.
Every day's Pride, y'all.
Every day's Pride for us. But thank you so much. That was just amazing and beautiful, and I love y'all. And I'm gonna see you on the street someday, and we're gonna hug.
Yes. Yes.
Queer Family Podcast.
Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning into the Queer Family Podcast. I hope you enjoyed what you heard. And if you did enjoy what you heard, feel free to subscribe, rate, and review us anywhere you get your podcasts or watch your podcasts. All those things make a huge difference in getting this show out to an even bigger and wider audience. And in the name of visibility and inclusion, that's the goal here. So let's share this far and wide, folks. Let's normalize our families. That's the whole point of this. And if you really like what you hear and what you see, feel free to join me on Patreon. I have various tiers in my Patreon community that start at just $2 a month. That's less than a cup of coffee. Come on, at least in the city of New York City, it is. You're going to get bonus content over there. You're going to get video episodes dropped a day early. And even more crazy shenanigans of yours truly just trying to get her life together. And I'll tell you what, it's a monumental effort. I'm not going to lie, but you have to go to Patreon to see it. And also make sure to get that merchandise. It's time to represent. It's Pride, y'all. And then every day is Pride, as we know. So you're going to go to tpublic.com/the Queer Family Podcast and get your merchandise. Like, wouldn't you want a little Queer Family Podcast mug to drink your morning coffee or tea in? Who wouldn't? Right? Who wouldn't? Go get that. And make sure you're following on all the socials. We are the Queer Family Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, where you're going to get the video episodes. And they're so fun. And I'm literally looking at you right now and talking, which is kind of very fun for me. This is fun being on video, except for the fact that I feel like I have to try to look nice for y'all now, which I never did before. But you don't need to know any of that. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep on tuning in. Watch the next one if you're on YouTube, or listen to the next. Just keep on doing it and share it far and wide. I love you. Mwah. I'm going to get out of your ears right now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Tune in again and again. I'll see you soon.
Love is love on the Queer Family Podcast. Love is love.